There's an active or a lawsuit against the city that's being organized by some folks. Again, there's Justice for North Fork that's organizing and protesting and trying to get the word out about exactly what went down, where Patrick Madden, this developer, is over years to come going to get millions of dollars in tax incentives, and residents who were kicked out with little warning get nothing. So again, this is Mindy, and Mindy lived in North Fork mobile home for, what did you say, 25? So tell folks about living there, about your time there. What was North Fork like? How was the community?
I spent 25 years living there. I raised my kid there. It was a good neighborhood. It's like safe. You knew your neighbors. People helped each other out. And that's all gone because we're all everywhere now. But that's really not what I want people to know. What my story is, yeah, I want people to know my story because what happened to all of us was not right. But I want people to focus on the fact that our city government used the TIF and did not go by the rules. They just shoved it through and thought everybody would just go, oh, okay, I'll just leave, bye. No, if they're going to use that stuff and give $11.7 million to someone who is a billionaire,
one of the wealthiest men in Kentucky,
dollars in that spot, you need to pay attention to how your tax dollars are being used, because they did nothing that the TIF says you have to do to get that money, and they just passed it on.
So that's something.
This, I mean, I don't know if you guys live in rural areas or not.
I do.
But this is a very extremely rural area where, honestly, indoor plumbing is just becoming to be a thing, and like out. So you got $11.7 million to give to a man who's going to invest $32 million. Why didn't you just give $11.7 million to the people in your area who could use that money?
Absolutely. Well, so because a lot of people might not have seen earlier, let's back up a little bit and tell them what happened. So you're living in North Fork. It's a great community. From what I understand, the type of community where a neighbor will help watch a child or a grandchild, and the children play together, and everyone kind of helps each other out, which in a lot of places in America doesn't happen anymore. So then, I think, were there rumors that this land was going to be sold?
As long as I lived there, there were rumors about selling it. I mean, I heard stuff like that all the time. But the actual man, John, who owned the property, he died a couple years ago. But the beginning, I think, was the $2 million tax thing. And then
Meaning, so before we went live, Mindy was telling us about this. So explain the $2 million tax.
The city of Moorhead charged the owners of the property, John and Joanne Fraley, $2 million. That was their tax bill. They actually tried to fight it, and it didn't change anything. And those two people actually have owned property in Moorhead for years and years and years. So, I mean, how are you going to get $2 million out of people who are paying $100 lot rent? So I feel like they honestly had no choice to sell the property.
So there were about, about 70 trailers.
76.
This was on the Fraleys. I think they said it was in a farmland, so they made it into a trailer.
Times 25, you're not making $2 million, you know.
Sure.
But I think that's when it all started. And then there was a thing where the city said, made whatever their little rules are, if your mobile home is older than a 1995, it cannot be inside the city limits. That trailer park has been up there for 40 years. So, you know, how many of them up there could move into, there's nowhere to go. The first time I heard about it, that we were actually going to have to move, the absolute terror of, first of all, I don't have the money to move mine. I don't have that money. What am I going to do? And then the next thing is, I start hearing people talking about where they're going to take them, and that's it. Oh, all these old trailers, nobody's going to take them. So let's just pile some more terror on. And you spend 24 hours a day just terrorized about what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I am fixing to be homeless. And I never dreamed in all my life I would ever be homeless. I've worked my ass off my whole goddamn life to make sure that I had a roof over my head, and that trailer was good enough for me. And they called us a blight. That's what they said. That's how we're going to get this TIF money and give it away, because that place is a blight on the community. And everybody who lived up there has worked their butts off their whole life to provide for their families. So, you know what? They can take that and shove it, because we have always worked. Those people have never worked for what they have. Our mayor has never dug a ditch, cleaned a house, cleaned a toilet, or whatever for minimum wage to raise her kids. She had her money handed to her. But I've worked 3 jobs, years and years and years, to raise my kid, and they call me the blight? No, I'm not the blight. They're the blight. We cannot go around and be mean to people like that and then talk bad about them. No, I'm not the blight. You are.
Wow.
They had every opportunity to help us, and they should have, according to the TIF agreement, but they didn't.
So the Fraleys who owned this property and then ended up selling it, they were in a tough spot, but you also had heard these rumors for years. And did residents try to find out what was happening? Because I know that you had, 45 days from the notice.
I tried to find out until recently, like last fall, when the guy came around with the Facebook where the city council was talking about it. And he's like, look at this. We're all standing out there giving the kids lunch. And it's like, what? So we're sitting there looking at it. And I don't even know how to explain how the things that they talked about, the things they said, the way they just was like pitched them out and just sitting there watching that.
You're speaking of, was Patrick Madden in that meeting or a developer?
We didn't hear anything from Patrick Madden until the New York Times, when the New York Times guy, Campbell, came and interviewed us, and Joanne admitted in that meeting, or whatever, that I didn't tell them that we were selling the property, because if the deal didn't go through, I would have been left with an empty property. So at that time, and we'd been out there screaming with our bull horns and all that so much that it gained enough attention that he finally had to address the situation. And he said that this has been in the works for 2 years. And it's like, we've been begging people to tell us what was going on, and people were like, we don't know what y'all talk about.
So the property owners, the landlords, didn't tell you guys what was happening, even though you folks were paying your rent. Right. A lot of people know about evictions because of, if folks are unable to pay or whatever. But here you guys are paying this whole time, paying the taxes, right, the rent, and trying to find out what's happening. and then you don't find out until much later, and then
Right.
you hear that Patrick Madden and others were calling your home a blight.
When he said that that had been in the works for 2 years, that's when we were all like, what? Because we've just spent days and months trying to figure this out, and like, it really and truly, is this going on right now? And we called people from our city council. I mean, people who would know, like, if the deed had went through, where the property had sold. No, nothing. And they all knew that it was getting ready to happen, but they wouldn't tell us anything.
Unbelievable. And these are people's lives. This is your home for over 20 years, and they don't tell you. I think that's unimaginable to a lot of people, but this is the reality. This greedy developer. What was your first instinct of what to do when you first heard the news?
I was terrified because I had no idea what I was going to do. I mean, like, how are you going to come up with the money to move this stuff? Will it move? I mean, I'm serious. It's like, this thing has been here for years, and will it even move? How you come up with the money to move it, and then you realize that it's so old, nobody will take it. What are you going to do? I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's like absolute terror 24 hours a day, because that's always on your mind. Even if you do actually lay down and go to sleep, you're still dreaming about it. And then when you wake up, that's the first thing you think of, and you wake up and you sit there in terror. What am I going to do? I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Did you at that time start talking to your neighbors, and what was the feeling among everybody?
Well, we all constantly talked and had meetings and talked about what we were going to do about the whole situation. So, like, yeah, that was a thing that we honestly ended up meeting people that we'd never known, never talked to, that now we're bonded for life now, because if you have not ever been through this, you have no idea how it feels. So that's why we all, like, are bonded. Like, my family's all like, you need to just do this, get over it, it's all going to be okay. When you've went through it, I'll take your free advice. But until then, shut up about it.
Absolutely. That makes complete sense. I think, too, it's something that people need to know, that you didn't get compensation for this. The Fraleys, correct me if I'm wrong, the Fraleys offered $1,000 to move, but that's not really, yeah, so tell people how that actually went down, and if you actually got anything from this.
Well, the $1,000 that everybody keeps talking about that we all got went to a mover, somebody who was going to move your trailer. And when we're moving out, they would show up, hand in the check. Money didn't come to us. And if anybody thinks $1,000 is all this cost,
To move an entire home, that's
way more than that. The lowest amount to move a trailer is $3,000. We're all just working class people. Yeah, I got $2,000 laying over here. And if I do, it ain't because I want to do that. It's because I want to go on vacation something this year. So, you know, I mean, people acting like $1,000 was going to just cure the problem for all of us. It's all right. They got $1,000. No, we didn't. And people are still struggling now. People have already moved and paying outrageous rent. People who were paying $125 rent, who had homes that they owned, whether it was something that city council thought was good enough for them or not. It was still your home. Are paying $950, $750, $650 that they don't have. I mean, how long are they going to be able to keep this up?